Hello, I'm Luke Darcy. Welcome to the 2013 wash-up for the Cats. They almost got there, Damo, but this stellar team just fell short.
It did, doesn't it? And it's funny when you look at what happened in the prelim final. I mean, Paul Chapman's availability could have actually made the difference. But in the end, I reckon where they finished, fourth or third, losing a prelim final, was probably about right. I didn't see them a grand finals team this year. One
of the great season highlights for me, Damo, occurred in the St Kilda Geelong match, and it was all in aid of Casey Tanje, who was a Geelong player, VFL player, played with South Barwon and has been tragically injured and finds himself permanently in a wheelchair as a quadriplegic. One of his great mates is Jack Stephen, and he got together with Corey Enright, and after the game, I thought this was fantastic, all about raising money to support Casey's recovery, and I think the way the community have got behind Casey, and for the two teams, it was organised by the players. Yeah. They made the pact, and to get out there and do it, I thought was one of the the great positives of the year.
Footy just does those moments so well, doesn't it, Das?
Yeah.
It does it really well. I really like Stephen Motlop's form this year, Das. So I just loved watching him do what he did, and a lot of it was kicking goals like this one against Collingwood, where there's not many guys who could do that, Das. There's not many guys that want to try even attempt that in this day and age of doing the right thing by the team. We see the trick bag on show here.
This is one of the great goals of the year. Have a look at the skill and the speed to be able to get around opponents like that, and then the composure to finish.
And just to ignore your teammate on the inside there too, Das. I like that.
When you're that good, you do what you like, and he's that good.
And he's got this as well. Took this big mark against the Swans late in the year, then went back and kicked the goal, Das. I mean, they're going to win that game anyway, but it's always good to kick the goal. I think I think he's the best Motlop going around, isn't he? I mean, Shannon played a premiership for North. Daniel was extraordinarily talented, but didn't quite use the talents well. But he's the best, I think.
I'm told he's an elite runner, an elite 800-metre runner, and he's just starting to burn opponents off up the ground. And I reckon that's where he's going to head. He's so talented, and another gun on the way for the Cats. Season low light time for me. We know it takes a lot of things to go right, Damo, to win a premiership and get in the grand final, and Tom Hawkins' fitness was pretty costly in the end. They persevered, but he'd wake up some days and look like this, where he just couldn't bend over. It was a fairly brave effort to play on, but some concerns when you've got a disc issue in your back that's that bad. There's no guarantee that that's going to come good anytime soon. So it really hurt.
He commented regularly during the year at his condition. Are you surprised now that he's finished and they kept persevering with him right through?
Not really, because even in the finals, when they eventually got him back, he kicked a couple of goals, Damo, and he took the best opponent. And look, so long as they were convinced, then they would have been, it wasn't doing any more long-term damage, then having him out there was the right call, but it just hurt them. If it had been 100% fit, it might have been a different story.
Yeah. The highlight for me was just the silly suspensions they copped us. They're a team that likes pushing the boundaries on certain things, but that's silly from Stevie J on Ballantyne there pre-season. That, Kelly on Goddard, look, that happens, I understand that, but Bartel on Laird, they just found themselves regularly in these type of situations, Das. Pods there, again, I know these things happen in footy, but they really copped them, the Cats, to the point where Paul Chapman missed a preliminary final on the back of another suspension at that footy club. That was a really silly one there from Steve Johnson, but it cost them, Das, and it cost them, I reckon, a prelim final win.
Yeah, Stevie J was probably the really silly one. The other ones were marginal, but you're right, it did hurt them in the end, and culminating in Paul Chapman. Let's hand out some Christmas bonuses for the Geelong players, Damo, and they had a lot of outstanding contributors again in 2013, but Harry Taylor for me was the man. He has been rewarded with a 5-year contract, which is well deserved, and he was great in defence, an all-Australian centre-half back, and was a pretty clear standout for that role. And then he had this ability to go forward to his game. And
do you see this happening again next year, Das?
Yeah, I think even more, depending on Hawkins' fitness. And still probably his role. I don't think you play him as a permanent forward, but if you get 20 goals out of him...
Do you like the celebration there, Das?
That needs some work, Harry. I'm not sure that little fist pumps his go, but everything else was A+ for me for Harry.
Yep. I'm going for another big guy as my Christmas bonus contender, Das. Mark Blitzarves, who none of us had ever heard of before this year started. Was a rookie list player, tried to make the London Olympics, and only fell a couple of seconds short of qualifying, Das, in the 1500. I know that he copped criticism in the finals for not having a great impact in the centre as a ruckman, but he's not going to be a ruckman, Das, over the career. The Geelong people think eventually, when they get Dawson Simpson up and running and maybe Trent West to come back into top form, he'll be on the wing. And I just thought what we saw this year by way of aerobic capacity, we've never seen anyone like this in footy, Das, this tall and this well adept at running. And I reckon there's a massive, massive future for this guy, but it won't be as a ruckman.
Yeah, one thing to be able to run, but he also reads the play well. He's really competitive and had a great year, Mark Blitzarves. Chopping block time, Damo, as we look at the Geelong list. I'm not sure Trent West, the man you just mentioned, will be there. I think Nathan Vardy is ahead of him, Dawson Simpson is ahead of him, and I think he's probably Blitzarves has gone past him as well. So he's got some currency. He played really well in the VFL Grand Final for Geelong where they lost. But I think other clubs will take a look at Trent West, and he might be one that gets squeezed out.
That's always a hard thing for a club, particularly a proud club like Geelong, to move on older players. But they are going to be moving on, I believe, 4 of the 5 players we're about to mention. Paul Chapman, Josh Hunt, Joel Corey, James Podsiadly and Corey Enright. I reckon Enright stays, but the other 4 have got some discussions to be had with their footy club, and they're not going to be nice. And at least 3 of them will go, and I reckon 4
That's
could.
not going to be without pain, Damo,
No.
because Paul Chapman has declared that he definitely wants to play on. Joel Corey's still playing good football.
Yeah.
You're convinced that, I mean, Corey Enright just plays.
He goes around
Australian,
again.
but they're going to wind
But he's
up
out
Chapman.
of contract, and the conversation still needs to be had with him, but he will play. Chapman almost certainly gone. Podsiadly is the interesting one. They need that key forward, as you've mentioned, but I just reckon out of contract they might just make the tough call, Das. They've got some awkward conversations to be had with all of those people.
Where do you think the Cats need to improve next year, Damo, to get back up into a grand final?
I just in that area with we mentioned J-Pod. I think they need a key forward, Das. With Hawkins really underdone this year, I don't know how they get one in, given their list the way it is structured. But to me, they need to develop one, and maybe it is Kirsten who was effectively put on standby to make his debut in a prelim final. I mean, they've got good raps on him, and maybe he's the one.
Yeah, I think given your assessment that maybe Chapman and Corey won't be there next year, a big body midfielder that's going to support Joel Selwyn the way he plays, I think that's what they got Josh Caddy from the Gold Coast Suns over to do. He showed some glimpses, but it's going to be a big year for him. I think they need 22 really good games out of Josh Caddy as a talented player. Prediction for next year, 2014, where do you see the Cats?
More of the same, Das. I mean, they're just too good a team to fall away in my eyes, and they'll stagnate. Whether that means they get a prelim final again, but they won't be too far away throughout the course of the home and away season. Yeah,
I've got them slightly down, Damo. Definitely inside the top 8, but I reckon they're going to be on the edge of the top 4. And it's so many of their greats are now gone, aren't they? Scarlett, Ling, Cam Mooney, now you take out Chapman and Corey, and the list goes on, even Josh Hunt at 200 games. So it's a big transition of the list. They'll be really competitive in my mind, but on the edge of the top 4. Thank you, Damo. That has been the wash-up for the Geelong Football Club in season 2013.